Chapter 1. Poker teaches one how to take control of each situation and how to make the most of lucky chances. We make decisions every day. Some are recherche decisions, while others are crucial decisions that carry particular import. Lessons from playing poker provide invaluable insights into decision-making. From managing emotions to thin slicing people to making the best of every situation, good or bad, to urging on yourself into the best version ever. In effect, you will not only catch the bluffs of others, but will effectively bluff yourself. Poker has endless potentials of application and revelation. The mixture of chance and skill at the poker table is a mirror to that same mixture in our daily lives. Poker provides a way of learning to play within those parameters in superior fashion. In this age of short attention span, poker reminds us just how vital living in the moment is to achieving all-around success. It shows how important it is to immerse yourself and to learn new things. Paying attention is the first lesson in playing poker. It is indeed the first lesson we need to learn when playing the world. For over 3 decades, Erik Seidel led the poker world. He holds 8 World Series of Poker WSOP bracelets, only 5 players in the tournament's history have more, and a title in the World Poker Tour. Also, the Poker Hall of Fame features his name, being one of the 32 living members. He boasts the 4th highest tournament career winnings in the entire history of the game and is 4th in the number of times he cashed in the WSOP, 114. Over the years, he has spent 15 weeks ranked first in the Global Poker Index, and he's considered to be the greatest of all time. Maria Konnikova struck a partnership with him to garner lessons from poker and to see how these lessons help in real-world decision-making in finding the delicate balance between luck and skill. In this summary, you will discover how poker lessons help us find a way to overcome our human inability to disentangle chance from skill in the morass of daily life. More importantly, you will learn to master it. Can poker help you to make that career change and show you when to start instead of waiting for perfect timing? Can it help you maximize your wins and minimize your losses in life? Read on to find out. Chapter 2. Poker is an important way to learn about decision making, but many have a misconception of poker as being equal to gambling. For Maria Konnikova, the person she had to convince about her decision to take up poker lessons was her only living grandparent, her grandmother, Baba Anya. To the untrained eye, poker is nothing more than getting good cards and raking in the dough. Most of us underestimate the skill involved. Poker is no more a game of chance than the stockbroker who does the same thing with less information, or the football player who might get injured a week after signing a professional football contract. Yet the misperception of poker in the popular mind is ingrained simply because poker involves betting. The fact that you can win the worst hand and you can lose with the best hand is why poker is a skilled endeavor rather than a gambling one. Von Neumann, the father of the modern computer, saw the answer to military strategy in the cards. Instead of mere gambling, having superior skills is necessary for a person to be seen as a winning player. Ingo Fiedler, an economist, after analyzing hundreds of thousands of hands played on multiple online poker sites over a 6-month period, he found that the actual best hand won, on average, only 12% of the time, and that less than a third of hands went to showdown. In effect, certain players were acute enough to convince other players to let go of their cards before the end of the hand. The betting in poker isn't incidental, it is integral to the learning process. Poker is a wide thoroughfare into the realm of probabilistic thinking because of the betting involved. Our minds learn when we have a real stake in the outcome of our learning. Poker is not just about adjusting the strength of your beliefs. It's also about acknowledging the mutability of truth. This lesson is difficult to internalize outside the poker table. When our decisions lead to bad outcomes in real life, we tend to blame it on wrong decisions we made instead of seeing it in probabilistic terms. Nate Silver, one of the top-most political analysts in the U.S., predicted that Hillary Clinton had a 71% chance of winning the 2016 election. Everyone assumed Clinton was going to win. Not a single media outlet considered the enormity of the 29% chance that Trump had at winning. 71% was misinterpreted as 100%. Did you know? Girolamo Cardano is considered the father of probability, the first person who we know of to go beyond a vision of chance to prediction through probabilities. Chapter 3. The merit of failure is a broadened perspective which success is unable to offer. If your initial experience in a new venture is absolute success, it becomes almost impossible to assess if you are indeed that brilliant or if it was a case of being serendipitously lucky. It is essential to test your thought process when learning new things or just going about your life. The best way to do this is to fail occasionally. Nothing is personal. Everything should be treated like a business. As a professional gambler, you need to have an objective evaluation of what is going on. What's crucial is to develop your critical thinking and self-assessment skills well enough to be able to constantly reevaluate where you are and to determine whether you're good enough to continue playing. Learning to lose in a game, to lose constructively and productively, would help me lose in life, lose and come back, lose and not see it as a personal failure. Maria Konnikova. An absolute lack of ego and a willingness to be objective about yourself and your level of skill is fundamental to winning at poker and at life. When things go wrong, people see it as unfairness that's always surrounding them. They take it personally and fail to learn from losing. They resort to laying blames on someone else instead of stepping back to analyze their own decisions to see where they have gone wrong. Understand the dark side of variance first. That's the only time you'll actually learn to process your decision-making well. Because when you're winning, it's just too easy not to stop and analyze your process. Is it necessary to bother when things are going well? With respect to learning, triumph is the primary enemy. It's disaster that teaches you. This same disaster brings objectivity to the teachable mind. Disaster is the prime solution to paranoia and overconfidence. Ultimately, triumph and disaster are masters of camouflage. They are results that are mostly dependent on chance. Nonetheless, one of them is a better teaching tool than the other. If we allow failure early enough, objectivity becomes attainable. But if we get accustomed to winning from the onset, that's when we see the illusion of control playing out in full swing. Meanwhile, poker is all about comfort with uncertainty, not just about the outcome of the cards, but also about the right thing to do. The only certain thing is your thinking. If less certainty, more inquiry is your guiding light, not only will you listen, you will adjust, you will grow, and that's essentially what self-awareness and self-discipline is all about. Chapter 4. Position is information, and the more information you have about your enemies, the stronger you are. Attack like a dragonfly, a killer that people hardly think about. In a 2012 study by a team of researchers from Harvard University, dragonflies were observed to capture an outstanding 95% of their targeted prey. By comparison, the wolf captures only 14% of what it stalks. The king of the jungle, the lion, hits the mark 25% of the time. Only a cheetah comes closest at 58%. The dragonfly may not look as glamorous or be the subject of fan adulation, but it's an outstanding predator. The eyes of dragonflies are able to spot the slightest movement. Their wings make it possible to maneuver with light speed reflexes. Also, the brain of a dragonfly has evolved to anticipate the potential changes to the target's movement with precision. Dragonflies are so good not just because of their acute sight, but because of the predictability of motion that their brains afford. To win at poker consistently, you need to act like a dragonfly that doesn't announce its presence with a roar, but is almost 4 times more lethal than a lion. Avoid having a predetermined strategy. Have an eminently flexible and ultimately deadly system rooted in deep patience and observation before anything else, and then a willingness to do whatever it takes, given the circumstances, to emerge victorious. There have been players that are successful because they have a style, but to the best extent that you can, you have to be a free thinker. You don't want to have one style. That makes you predictable. Respond to your opponents. Grow over time. If a new player comes in or you switch tables, you have to learn the new language to survive. Much of poker relies on experience more than it does on memory. It is by making a bunch of mistakes that you learn what a good hand is. Did you know? Randy Liu, screen name Nanonoko, set a Guinness World Record by playing between 25 and 40 tables at a time for a record 23,493 hands in 8 hours back in 2012 and made a profit of 7.65 in the end. Chapter 5. Passivity gives a false sense of security, but it leads to a slow but steady loss of chips. Calling, checking, and folding are passive moves. Active moves include to raise, to check raise, to 3-bet. Challenge yourself to be active. It is the fear of failure that makes many play poker passively, and perhaps their own lives too. Continue to be passive and be sure to lose all your chips eventually. How many proverbial chips has a default passivity cost you in your life? Consider the number of times you walked away from situations because of someone else's show of strength when you really shouldn't have. How many times have you passively stayed in a situation, eventually letting it get the better of you, instead of actively taking control and turning things around? Hanging back in life may seem like an easy solution, but it can be the seed of far bigger problems. Pick your spots. Any idiot can win any given hand with the best cards. That's not the point of poker. You get dealt the best cards only every so often, and if you wait for them every time, your chips will run out. What's more, you won't win any money once you finally have those aces in hand, because even the least attentive player will have noticed that you only play with the best hand and will stay as far away from you as possible. The best players don't care how they look. It doesn't matter how many seeming mistakes you make as long as your thinking is solid. Sometimes you can even play really bad hands as long as you have good reasons for why it will work. Social conditioning plays a major role in passivity. Most poker players are male. Females have been socially conditioned to just observe and enjoy the view rather than have a sit at the table. Even when a female plays, she might fail to up the aggression factor needed to win. Socially, an aggressive female is unattractive to those in power, namely men, and some women who have managed to make it to the top but are unwilling to jeopardize their position. Hannah Riley Bowles, a senior lecturer at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, specializes in negotiation with females. She found that women, not men, are penalized for asking for more money in a negotiation. Perceived aggression in women is not only not valued, it's seen in a negative light. Chapter 6. As humans, we operate on subjective reality rather than objective reality every time we experience something. We give our own interpretations to our experiences. How we phrase sentences, are we the one doing the acting or being acted upon, can determine whether we have an internal or external locus of control, whether we're the captains of our lives or serfs to powers beyond us. Do we consider ourselves victims or victors? Victims often say, "The cards did not favor me. I'm at the receiving end. Things are merely occurring around me, and I'm neither in control nor able to blame another." On the contrary, a victor says, "I'll make that same decision under similar circumstances. Of a truth, things could have turned out better, but I had a handle of the situation. That is the skill within my control." The repercussions of that frame shift are worth considering. In poker, if you're one of the bad beat dwellers, you will likely recount the tale of the unfair gods of poker at every tournament in which you get to participate. You can either choose to interpret your reality through the prism of a victim or a victor, but never both. If you encounter a setback in life, it may cause a ripple effect of setbacks and result in the lagging of resolution. All of a sudden, your framing matters significantly more. A victim of the cruel cards, this may serve as something called the luck dampener effect, because the despondency of misfortune plagues you. Hence, you are likely to miss out on the cues that could help you overcome it. Opportunities slip by. People get tired of your nagging, causing your social circle of support and opportunities to contract. Consequently, you find yourself avoiding certain activities because you think, "I'll probably lose, why bother?" You end up in a mental imbalance, and the spiral persists. On the contrary, thinking of yourself as a potential victor who thinks correctly and does everything possible is better off, even if you end up in a crappy situation. Lose or win, you'll have other opportunities, and if you maintain a healthy mindset, eventually things will fall into place. This is the course to follow to resilience, to overcome the unavoidably bad situations and mentally preparing yourself to take subsequent opportunities head on. You're a part of several human networks. When you lose your job, you naturally come to the mind of people in your social network when new openings come up. If you're recently divorced, separated, or bereaved, and friends find someone single who they think to be a good match, you automatically come to mind. That attitude is called a luck amplifier. Of course, you are unable to reverse the cards, the variance remains the same, but you will turn out a whole lot happier and better adjusted as life's blows fall, and your ready mindset will prepare you for the change in variance that is likely to surface along the line, even if this is far in the future. Chapter 7. In everything, stability and support are important components of success. When there is no stability or support, there's much more to overcome and many more obstacles that need to be moved before you're on the same path as the next guy who was more fortunate. And of course, there are all the other lotteries of birth, your genes, your gender, your situation, and the lottery of outside life events as you grow up. Do you even have the chance to learn what poker is and try to play in the first place? And the lottery of variance when you just start out in the game. Do you get lucky early in your career or not? Consider a German player, Fedor Holz, who went on a historic run, a series of tournament results so good that someone programmed a probability distribution chart to see how likely it was to repeat. The results showed that Holtz's run had less than 1% chance of being repeated. He was an excellent player, but luck was also on his side. There are many people out there who will be on the other side of the probability distribution. These are people who got such bad luck at the start of their foray into the world of poker that they never even realized they had the skill to continue. Attention is a powerful mitigator to overconfidence. It forces you to constantly reevaluate your knowledge and your game plan, lest you become too tied to a certain course of action. And if you lose, well, it allows you to admit when it's actually your fault and not a bad beat. The connection to bad beats runs even deeper. The more you're able to focus on something, the more attention you pay to it, and the more you maximize your skill edge before the ugly situations manifest, and so you cut back on the number of times you have to leave your fate to the cards. You fold before that run out that you will then foist as garbage on whatever neighbor happens to be near. You can't avoid bad beats altogether, but paying attention is one of the best ways to minimize the window for negative variance to peek through. In this age of short attention span and 24-hour connectivity, we may be so busy that we fail to see signals telling us to duck before winding up in the bad beat's path. Chapter 8. Work hard and prepare yourself so that when chance appears, you will notice it. One of the most often cited quotes about luck comes from Louis Pasteur. Chance favors the prepared mind. However, something which people often forget is that the full rendering is quite different. Where observation is concerned, chance favors only the prepared mind. We tend to focus on that last part, the prepared mind. But that first part is equally crucial. If you're not observing well, observing closely to begin with, no amount of preparation is enough. The one is largely useless without the other. Your luck is not a function of positive occurrences. Your luck is more dependent on being alert to when they manifest. Richard Wiseman is a renowned psychologist at the University of Hertfordshire. He once ran a study where he asked people who considered themselves lucky or unlucky to look through a newspaper and count the number of photographs. The self-described unlucky took about 2 minutes, whereas the self-described lucky took a few seconds. The task was identical, but the self-identified lucky people were much more likely to notice something the others missed. On page 2, in huge letters, were the words, "Stop counting." There are 43 photographs in this newspaper. Prepared mind or not, in the absence of observation, it matters little. If we want to be successful, we need to train our powers of observation, to cultivate that attitude of mind of being constantly on the lookout for the unexpected, and make a habit of examining every clue that chance presents. We can't control the variance. We can't control what happens, but we can control our attention and how we choose to deploy it. Everything in poker is always some sort of flow of energy where whoever can apply the right amount of pressure and allow the right amount of retreat will win. If you find that balance, it's really nice. That's what will allow for success. Maria Konnikova. It's a philosophically powerful way of viewing life. Practically, though, it implies a degree of non-attachment that seems oddly out of place in a profession built around maximizing expected value in the financial rather than spiritual sense. Poker is a doppelganger of life, but with immediate karma. Conclusion. It may be argued that we cannot use games as models of real life because, in life, the rules derived from games can break down in unforeseen ways. It's called the ludic fallacy. Games are too simplified. Life has all sorts of things that it can throw at you to make your careful calculations useless. However, poker gives the skills necessary to deal with the chaos that can be thrown at you from outside the poker table. You learn the mathematical and emotional forbearance to accept things for what they are and to emerge on the other side. You gain perspective, survival skills, the strength and knowledge to be the conqueror rather than the conquered. You learn to acknowledge, with the full force of the outside world, just how lucky you are to be sitting at the table, to have the chance to play in the first place. You're mostly unable to control the outcome of occurrences, so it's pure futility trying to guess at it. Chance is exactly that. It is neither good nor bad, nor personal. Without our ability to supply meaning, it's outright noise. The best we can do is control the things we can, our thinking, our decision processes, our reactions. Here are some of the most powerful steps we can take. Admit that we are far from omniscience. Accept a lack of urgency without resorting to gimmicks. Attempt to analyze the unknown as best we can with the tools of rationality. Try this. Passivity gives a false sense of security, but leads to a steady loss of chips in the end. In what areas of life do you feel you need to become active, to pay attention so you can bluff successfully? And if you lose, to try again, learning from your experience.